not being able to eat food, it makes you appreciate food on another level, because you don't realize how much is wrapped around just the very simple act of food. Our holidays, our Sunday dinner, everything is centered around food. Back in 2006, at that point I had my 2 kids, and I never really bounced back from my second. I couldn't really explain why. Nothing was standing out. I just knew I didn't feel right. My appetite just started to basically be non-existent. I had dropped so much weight. I was down to 88 pounds, weak, just constantly in a state of pain. I was in the hospital for a lot of my kids' lives, and they don't remember a lot of that, but that was something I think that later on drove me to have to find an answer to this. At one point, I think in those 8 years, I had no hope. I had lost the sensation of hunger altogether. And they say that when you hit that point, that you have days left to live. The doctor called me that night and said, "Teresa, I finally know what's wrong." He told me that I had SMA Syndrome, which is Superior Mesenteric Artery Syndrome. And this syndrome was so rare that only 500 people in the history of recorded science had ever been diagnosed. Your body protects the organs around that artery with fat pads. And because of all the years of malnutrition, I had no fat pads left. That triggered my artery to literally strangle my intestines. So what they did was they detached my intestine below the obstruction and reattached it, bypassed the obstruction altogether, and reattached it to a different spot in my stomach. I had a 50% chance of making it through this surgery. And the doctor came and he said, "I think we found your answer. I think this is, from here on in, you're going to relearn how to eat and your body's going to accept it. And I think this is where things really change for you." I had this thought process in my head that after I had this surgery, I was just going to get to start eating food again. Something I'd been waiting for so many years to do. And I had to reteach my body how to give it a chance to start absorbing food. The doctor put me on an all-clear liquid diet, and that was all I was allowed to have for the first couple of weeks. Around month 3, I started to plateau. I couldn't get my body to advance past soft foods. But when it came down to eating something more solid, it would take me 3 hours to consume one tiny little peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I called the doctor and I said, I just feel like something's wrong. And they found that I had something called gastropareisis. Somewhere in the surgery to save my life, nerve endings were snipped in a certain way and my stomach became paralyzed. The way to keep myself from any further strangulations down the road was to gain back fat pads. Something inside of me at that point snapped. It was like a fire was lit inside me, and I was angry. I was just angry that, this wasn't going to end. I decided that I was going to leave Manhattan, leave the specialists, and figure out my own way through this. And what I came up with was, if my body can't tolerate food, I'm going to stop stressing it out. I'm going to put myself on an all-liquid protein diet. And I decided to start exercising because I figure muscle puts on pounds. It's a weight. And maybe if I gain some strength back, somehow that would help. I had no idea, really, if that was going to do anything. I just had no other option. The beginning couple of weeks were very humbling for me, literally sometimes with my face in my carpet. just trying to get through basic sit-ups and push-ups and, you know, lunges. I was exhausted. It was really hard for me to get through. Day after day of doing it and sticking with it, I saw slight changes. I saw myself going automatically to my shakes without having to be reminded, especially after a workout. And that process, that sensation grew the more I worked out. After a couple of months, I saw muscle for the first time in almost a decade. I would say my diet was 80% liquid and 20% soft foods at that point. I stayed completely away from cardio because I couldn't afford to risk those calories. So I just went into heavy weightlifting. Within a very short time period, I had gained close to 8 pounds just from the intensity of my workout, because what I saw happening was about an hour after my workout, I was able to consume solid foods that I had not seen in 9 years. I was able to go annihilate a hamburger or a cheeseburger or a steak. And these are things that the specialists in Manhattan said would never be attainable to me. Somehow it activated the motility in my stomach for just this small window that was, you know, kind of like a miracle in a sense. And throughout the course of a year and a half, I've been doing this now. I started at 106 pounds. I'm now 119. And it took me 11 years to get here, but it finally happened. And I can eat whatever I want. I'm now 80% solid food, 20% shake. When I went back to the doctors and told them, you know, what had happened and what had been going on, they literally just shook their heads at me and said, "You are one of those scientific marvels. Like, I don't even know how to explain what's happening." He says, "But keep doing it. You know, don't stop." He says, "I look forward to seeing what you're going to be able to accomplish." I'm defying all the odds, and I can't explain it. Well, I can explain it, but